Greetings and salutations, everyone. Today we're going to be taking a look at imperialism, specifically second wave imperialism. Now, as we know by now, empire is a large political entity with a variety of different social or cultural peoples acting within that political unit. Usually the leader of an empire is the title of emperor, but it can also be king or queen or heck, even president, and that all still technically counts because of our predisposed definition. Now, second wave imperialism had a lot of major things going for it. Our straight definition of imperialism itself is the takeover of a country or a territory by a stronger nation with the intent of dominating the political, economic, and social life of the people of that nation. This is the active act of conquering someone else, as opposed to the passive act of, well, I've already conquered you, so I just need to control you or hold you or make you do what I want you to do kind of situation. There were a lot of different motivators for imperialism. One of the biggest one was the Industrial Revolution. All of a sudden, the world goes through this wonderful transformation of industry, and all new things are being made and produced, and this means that things are getting made and produced much cheaper, much faster than they ever had before. To keep up with this, there is a demand for raw materials. The steel, gold, rubber, petroleum, you name it, it's in need for industry, just like it is today. The problem is that sure, you can go and buy these raw materials, you can trade for these raw materials, but it's a lot cheaper if you just conquer a place that has the raw material and then you export it back to yourself, or you create a colony that does that for you in a mercantilistic kind of way. Second major motivator for imperialism is, well, money. The idea of controlling trade, controlling the market. You gather the raw material and you can make money off it. You have the thing made somewhere else and you don't pay people nearly what they deserve to be, and that's cheap labor. It's the exact same reason that today your smartphone is not made here in the States. Your smartphone is made in somewhere in East Asia because it can be made there much, much cheaper because of each and every one of these reasons. Some motivations for imperialism are going to be a political motivator. I want to have a bigger nation. I want to have a bigger country. And in the United States of America, we had this wonderful westward expansion that's taking place throughout, heck, from the end of the 18th century throughout the 19th century as well. And a large part of the American history is taming that western wilderness, quote unquote. But in Western Europe, that's not really an option. You really can't get bigger unless you want to go to direct war with your neighbor. And even then, unless you're willing to commit to a total war, you're not going to ever be able to defeat them. And that's not really an option that most nations are going to do. So, if you want to expand, it's a lot easier to expand if the people across the Mediterranean, or maybe peoples in Africa or Southeast Asia or South Asia might look like you could probably defeat them relatively easily. There's a vast technological difference between these two. Take note of firearms, take note of steel production, take note of anything, and it looks much easier for you to expand and conquer. Now, there's expectation than reality, which that's going to fall apart with. In the age of exploration, we called them 3Gs, God, Glory, and Gold. And in the age of imperialism, God once again shows up. The religious concept shows up. People wanting to use their faith to create missionaries, to spread what Europeans felt as a superior moralistic effort, a superior value system, and even to educate the people of the world in a European-style method. And this is met with conflict in a lot of places. One of the best examples would be Western Africa, where Islam had been holding, since the 9th century, and really wasn't ready to let go anytime soon. We will see a benefit from this as more and more religiously minded individuals expand across the world and see some of the horrors that happen, especially with the African slave trade. That'll help expedite the conclusion of that. Reaching again back to the age of exploration is the idea of people exploring. By this point, the maps are filling in. There's less question of what's out there, but there's still questions of what's in there, what's in that unknown area. Sure, James Cook finds Australia and starts to pull things out of it, but it's the filling in of that. It's the question of what's there. It's humans' natural nature to want to fill in and know what's over there. The adventure in all of us. The unknown wanderlust that all humans innately possess. Ideologically, we see that people are willing to go and conquer because they think they should, because they think that they are superior to other people. Now, usually this ideologic superior attitude almost exclusively denotes the idea of also being white, and this is really, really not great for the obvious racial reasons. In a lot of places where we see second wave imperialism happen, and everything that a culture had gets steamrolled over because it's labeled as barbarous or pagan or inferior in just some giant way. And even though that's still happening, people are still arguing that this is still a just reason for conquering. Our last major motivator for imperialism is the idea of taking and holding a tactical position, whether it's the Strait of Gibraltar, the Falkland Islands, or the Suez Canal, my three picture identities here. There is a great reason to hold these territories. If you can control trade, you can control who's moving to one region or another. Even indirectly, you can shape social, political, cultural, economic, even interactions with the environment of all peoples within these regions very easily by controlling a relatively small area. As we take a look at the world itself, it really is pretty impressive how big these colonial empires would be and how big of an impact this would lead for everything else. I really can't stress enough that second wave imperialism would ultimately shape everything that is going to happen for the 19th century and a good chunk of the 20th century as well. And this is pretty much where we're going to leave it. I mean, we could go into imperialism of all the different major imperial powers that are listed here, but that would take forever. And we all want to do more with our lives than we can. So, with that being said, I'll leave you here. Hope you learned something, and I'll see you next time.